Hello, welcome once again to my 6th grade social studies class where you'll see some things. So today I'm going to show you, well, everybody's just still walking in right now. I'm going to show you a couple of strategies that I'm going to use. Well, one strategy in particular, it's called a think aloud strategy. So we're starting a new portion of this lesson where we're going to be introducing a new book. And I just want the kids to be able to focus in and hone in on exactly what I want them to do and look for as we're going through this book. So let me show you the book. I'm going to show you the book and then I'm going to demonstrate to the class as they're all getting situated what exactly we're going to be doing. So this is it. I remember the Alamo. Okay, you may be familiar with the Alamo. I don't know if you're from Texas or not, but I'm sure my class will be. Okay, now if I can get everybody's attention really quick, I'm going to show you what we're going to be doing the next few weeks. We're going to be reading through this. I remember the Alamo. Now, there's a few things that I want you to do. Everybody can get their copy out. Thank you. I want to remind you that it is okay in this copy to write and to make notes. In fact, I encourage it. And this is what I want to do. Before we even get into the book, I want you to do some things for me. Before we read anything, I want you to do what I'm going to demonstrate to you what a good reader, some of the characteristics of a good reader and a prepared reader do. So in this Think Aloud, I'm going to show you a before reading strategy. So before we even read anything, look through the text features, and one of these is going to be the cover of the book, I Remember the Alamo. So just kind of thinking about that before we read the book, you kind of think this is a first person's account. We don't know who this little girl is, but we can kind of guess or infer that she plays a central character in the book. Now as we kind of move forward in the book, just going to the first chapter, you're going to notice some things. Gone to Texas is the first chapter in this book. So we can kind of get an idea that there is going to be some movement involved, some going to Texas. As we know, not everybody originated in Texas. I mean, I'm sorry for those who didn't. But not everybody originated in Texas, but many people migrated to Texas. And this book falls under the category of historical fiction. Now, does everybody know what historical fiction is? That is one of the questions I want you to be asking yourself. As you know, historical fiction is going to be a true account in history, and maybe the characters are not necessarily true, but the accounts or what actually happened should be true. So this is going to be the case with this book. I'm going to read to you the first page, and then I'll show you a little bit more of what I want you to do. Okay, one afternoon toward the end of October, Jessie McCain, which is the girl in the front of the book, took up from her family's wash to see a horse and rider coming through the trees. She dropped the stick she was using to stir the clothes. So thinking about that, stirring the clothes, when was the last time you saw someone doing that? You can infer just from the few lines that this is an old story. And raced along the dirt path, busting into her cabin, flushed and breathless. Ma, Yancey, Pa's coming. Ma looked up from her spinning wheel. I don't think so, dear. It's too soon. Yancey came in, his arms loaded with firewood. At 15, he was taller than Pa and almost as strong. He grinned at Jessie. What happened? I heard you yelling. Clear out to the woodpile. Pa's coming. I saw him riding up the road. Now, as I'm going through, there's a few things I want you to do. Now, since we've gone, I just first described to you what I would like for you to do in our before reading strategy. Now, we're jumping into the during reading strategy. Now, during reading, I don't know if you can see this. I'm going to hope that you zoom in. I have underlines. I have words circled in the book. As I'm going, I'm writing kind of in the margins because I'm trying to decide what is going on. I'm writing myself questions. I'm writing things that grab my attention. And as I go through the book too, don't be afraid to write yourself little notes if you got a little bit more to say. I want to skip ahead to another page here. I actually highlighted this one word because there will be words in here that we're going to be using for vocabulary. So as we go for each chapter, I'm going to be posting some words that caught my attention that are vocabulary words. And what I want you to do is there's other words besides those that catch your attention. I want you to highlight and underline those words. So right here in this portion right here. And when morning came, they set off again. The wagon pitched and groaned along the muddy road. Callie cried and cried. It wouldn't stop. Tad whined until Pa grew cross. Worst of all, Yancey rode far ahead of the wagon for most of the day and didn't speak to Jesse at all. It was miserable, wretched. Now we can infer from some of that what wretched is, and wretched is a bad situation that nobody wanted to be in. So as we're going through the book, I want you to also think about something else. I'm going to be posting something called a central question. Now we can already kind of infer and understand that this is a family and they're moving along and they're going to Texas. Now, the central question is, what made people travel hundreds or thousands of miles from one part of the country to another part of the country? Remember, there was no cars there was no planes there was no real dependable transportation. Now, why would anybody, let alone a family with kids, go from one part of the country, risk everything, to another? Now, as we're thinking about this, I want you to have that question in the back of your mind as you're reading through the end of this book. And as we get through the end of these chapters, what I want to do is I'm going to require from all of you an exit ticket. I'm going to be posting another question for every chapter. And as we get to this exit ticket, I want you to come to your own conclusions and decisions of why that is. Why would each family want to go from one part of the country to another? Now, after reading strategy, it's going to be a little bit different. We're going to be having small groups, and we're going to be each summarizing parts of the story that grabbed our attention to each other and telling each other parts of the story that meant something to us, that resonated with us. This is going to be a literature circle, so we're not actually going to be reading the book to each other. We're going to be discussing what we have already pre-read. And we're going to be going over what those vocabulary words meant. And we're going to be discussing with each other what the vocabulary is, and just kind of preparing each other for each chapter the book goes through. And as we close on that, after reading strategy, I want you to be discussing what you're going to be thinking about, what is going to happen in this next chapter, what is going to be the next thing that occurs to this family. And not only that, but how is it tying into history, and how are we seeing history as we know it play in to this to the story in this family. I forgot to mention this too, but as a before reading strategy, I'm going to be asking students, going to be asking y'all, what do we know about the Alamo? What do we know about what is history has told us of who are the victors and who are the bad guys in this story? And then I'm going to ask you this very same question at the end of the book. I'm going to ask you in an assessment. I'm going to ask you, has your idea changed from the beginning of the book to the end of the book? Do you see the victors and the bad guys as the same from what we know in history and what we're reading in the book? Another thing I'm going to ask you to think about towards the end of the book is, in your own words, describe what you think the family did and went through as you finish reading this book. I want you to, as if you were the author, to write the next chapter of this book. Now, hopefully that gave you a little bit of clarity. So hopefully you have a little direction and focus as you're reading this book, and you can adequately attack this book and look at it with eyes that are just questioning. And hopefully what I've given you is some strategies so you can properly just analyze this book. I want to show you too that this doesn't end. Like, the strategies I'm showing you now are not just for this classroom, but they're here to benefit you as a person. They're here to benefit you as a future scholar. As a college teacher, as a college student, this doesn't change. I want to show you, like, these strategies for highlighting and writing in the margins and circling doesn't change. This will continue, and this will be something that benefits you as you get older and you pursue higher education. All right, thank you. Let's get started.